So we are still stuck at 76 likes to reach 100 likes for the prepare for the CCHI video. Remember, we're trying to get to 100 likes to be able to post the MIP 21 medical interpretation practice video, a whole new series, number 21, to YouTube. So we are close. We are more than 75% there. Come on guys, let's get that video to 100 likes. Once we get that video to 100 likes, we'll be posting MIP 21 to YouTube, and then we're gonna give you a chance to comment, and we're gonna pick 2 comments at random, and the people that made those 2 comments are gonna get exclusive links to MIP 22 before the whole world will even get their hands on them. And then we're gonna let you record your interpretations and send them over to us so we can provide you some feedback, so we can aid you in becoming a much better interpreter. So let's get to it. Let's get the prepare for the CCHI video to 100 likes. I'm pretty sure that we can do it. I'm pretty sure that we can probably get it to 77 today, right guys? I'm not asking for much, just one little like. That's it. Well, actually 24 more likes, right? So anyways, let's get started today. Hello and welcome to Unwind Sessions, where right after my shift I give the highlights of my workday and answer any questions that might have been asked at a previous session. My name is Juan. I am an English, Spanish, medical video remote consecutive interpreter with over 4 years of experience. And today is Friday, August 13, 2021. Bad luck day, but we don't believe in that, right? We're not superstitious, so we are here and we're having a blast, and we're having a blast today. I hope everybody's having a blast today as well. And today I took 34 sessions to a mix between audio and video sessions. There was one video session that was just shy of an hour, around the 15-minute range. The rest were probably below the half an hour range, a little bit of audio, more video sessions like always. I have 3 highlights for today. 2 were very similar and 1 was not. All right, let's get to it. So my first highlight of the day is that I gave a gentleman instructions to take a medication, and the gentleman thought it was a question, and he asked if he was being asked a question, to which I told the doctor, doctor, this is interpreter speaking. The gentleman is asking if your instructions were a question. May I go ahead and repeat to him the instructions to make it clear that they were instructions? And then the doctor said, no, let me just tell you something else. And then the doctor just went ahead and gave me the same instructions, but he clarified that they were instructions, not a question. So he did the job for me. It was wonderful, and we were able to get through that session like nothing. And another session, the doctor asked the mother if the patient was in preschool, and the mother answered that she's gonna go to Head Start this year. But the doctor had heard Head Start, and then she assumed that the patient's mother said she's going to Head Start. So the doctor's question, the next question from the doctor, she did not let me interpret or anything, and she said, so does she enjoy Head Start? So I knew what had happened, and I automatically went and I told the doctor, doctor, this is the interpreter speaking. The lady actually answered that she's gonna go to Head Start this year. And then the doctor said, oh, okay, so that's what she said. And then we were able to get on with the session. So very similar things where there was a miscommunication, right? One, the person didn't understand if it was an instruction or if it was a question, and number 2, the doctor jumped ahead and tried to answer, right? And I've said this a million times, I said this before, just one little word can change the meaning of the whole thing, right? And sometimes patients and doctors that don't understand the language fully just cling on to like the little word that they know, and they assume that because they know that word, it means the answer that they want, right? And then just creates a whole mess. In my experience, it has been so bad that like the doctor and the patient are speaking to each other, but they don't even like understand. The doctor doesn't understand Spanish and the patient doesn't understand English, so they're just talking and they're just clinging on to like one little word that they do understand. And then like it's horrible. This is horrible to see, because to hear and to see, because you're seeing that like the doctor says something and then the patient thinks he says something, so then he answers something completely different, and then what the doctor understands is something completely different, and then like it just gets so messy, it just gets so bad, and then you're just standing there like you guys don't have any idea what you guys are saying. And then like at the end, the doctor goes like or the patient, right? Oh, I couldn't understand that. And of course you step in and like, oh, I'm sorry, doctor, this is the interpreter, but I can tell you that everything you've talked for about the last 5 minutes makes no sense. And it has happened, and it will probably happen to you as well. Just a heads up. All right. And what is the last highlight of today? Well, I had to be the bearer of bad news, unfortunately. This guy's brother died, and I hate these sessions. I wish I didn't take these sessions, because man, having to tell a person that their relative died, it's horrible. I don't like it. I don't know if people like it. I've never asked someone, hey, you like it, man? No. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure nobody likes this type of sessions, right? So I don't like him either. But then I remembered that there's something very important that I need to practice in these sessions, because at the end, like, I choked when it was my turn to actually say goodbye to the LEP. I choked and I didn't know what to say. So in a previous video titled "The Bearer of Bad News," I actually talk about this. And I was ready with my outro. I was ready to tell that gentleman, I am sorry for your loss and I wish you the best. And I was ready for that, and I was just waiting for that. That was like the thing that made this call, like, actually in my brain. It made it think like it was a good call, because I was gonna practice something that was gonna make me a better interpreter, right? The outros where I always choke in this type of sessions. And what happened, the call disconnected, so I didn't even get to practice. I was a little bummed out, but I was happy to just be out of that session, man. I don't know, I hate those sessions. I do them because it's my job, but if I didn't have to do them, I wouldn't even get a mile close to those sessions. Honestly, I hate those sessions. It's just awful. All right, I'm just gonna stop talking about that, and we're just gonna dive right into the 10 must-know ENT vocabulary words. Now, the following definitions were obtained from augusta.edu, augusta.edu, and all of them except for what I'm going to tell you right now. But for the vocabulary list of today, all of the words and definitions were from that website. So they have a really, really good ENT vocabulary list there. It's very extensive. Some words I've never even heard before, so use with caution. But there's a lot of good terminology that is not even just limited to ENT. That, like, honestly, if you guys have a chance to go ahead and look that up, you just put in the address and the augusta.edu in Google, and then put ENT vocabulary. I'm pretty sure it'll come up, and go ahead and study that list. Like I said, there are some terms that I've never even heard before, and I've never even used, and I'm probably never gonna use. but I saw a lot of terms well explained, so definitely worth checking it out. All right, and now that we got that out of the way, I want to get started by letting you know that if you don't know what ENT stands for, it stands for ear, nose, and throat. So it's a doctor that looks at your ears, nose, and throat. Let me just tell you something. That medical specialty is called otorhinolaryngology. So oto means ear, and rhino means nose, and laryngology will just your larynx and stuff, right? And the Spanish translation for that is otorrinolaryngología. Now, honestly, I probably in my whole interpreter career, I've only heard that word twice in English. So it is used, and if you best know it to know that that means ENT. And in Spanish, well, that's the only way. There's no way around it. Whenever they say ENT, the only way that you can interpret that is otorrinolaryngología. And well, the definition for that is just the medical practice, the medical study of ears, nose, and throat. I just wanted to get that out of the way. That way, you guys don't get caught without knowing this, because that's important. But I'm not gonna treat it like one of the 10 words. So let's get to it. All right, and word number 1, hoarseness, or ronquera in Spanish. And what is hoarseness? Hoarseness is an abnormally rough or harsh sounding voice caused by vocal abuse and other disorders such as gastroesophageal reflux, thyroid problems, or trauma to the larynx, the voice box. That's very important as well, larynx, voice box, in ENT vocabulary, so you might as well learn it. And I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with what hoarseness is, but just in case that you are not, it's just like very raspy voice. I don't know, I can't do it, but it's like your voice just sounds very raspy. And I remember like there was a commercial in the United States about a cough medicine, or I don't remember what it was for, but then it was a little kid that used to walk up to his mama and then used to tell him, "Oh, mom, I think like I have a horse in my voice, and then a horse in my throat." And then so he was hoarse, right? And that I always remember that, but it's not spelled the same as you can see. But maybe you can look up some, if you don't know what hoarseness sounds like or what hoarseness is, you can go ahead and look it up in YouTube. Look up some videos and you will be able to tell what hoarseness is. All right, and number 2, tinnitus, and in Spanish, tinnitus. What is tinnitus? It is the sensation of a ringing, roaring, or buzzing sound in the ears or head. It is often associated with many forms of hearing impairment and noise exposure. So tinnitus is basically a ringing of the ears, permanent. Well, it can be permanent, it can be temporary, but if it's there, it's tinnitus. And for the most part, the patients that have this are going to be referred to the ENT so that the ENT can diagnose and treat them correctly. And this is a very, very common thing of why people go to the ENT. All right, and number 3, adenoids, or in Spanish, adenoides. And what are adenoids? Adenoids are lymphoid tissue located behind the nose. Now, yes, they are behind the nose, but they're like in the back of your throat, like the way behind. They're like stuck to like the back. Like if you open your mouth and you can see the back of your throat, if you go a little bit higher, maybe to like the height of your nose, that is where your adenoids are, and they help you to fight off infections. And there's such thing as a adenoiditis and adenoiditis. Yes, I'm pretty sure that's it. That means swelling of the adenoids, and they can remove them if they get swollen because they block the passage of air to the lungs. So if they get too inflamed, they will block air and they need to be removed. They can be inflamed because of allergies, because of bacterial infections, all kinds of stuff could mess them up. So adenoids, very important for ENT sessions. Another one that's also important is sinus, and the Spanish translation for that is senos nasales. It is actually just senos, but if you're a Spanish speaker, you know that senos is actually used for breast as well. So for a woman's breast. So it's best to clarify senos nasales because, of course, not everyone is used to, when they're talking about the sinuses, calling it senos. So clarifying and saying senos nasales is going to make your job easier because you wouldn't want to be in a ENT session and then be like, all right, so you're están inflamados sus senos, and then a lady look at you like, no, it's over here, man. So we don't want that to happen, right? So we have to be pretty precise and pretty clear with the wording. So senos nasales is your best friend right there. All right, and what are sinuses? Is a connection from one cavity to another, or cavity that is connected to another cavity. So cavities. Usually refers to the air spaces in the skull that connect to the back of the nose. So sinus is pretty much a cavity, and I looked it up because I got curious. Why do they call senos? And it turns out that senos is used for women's breasts, but it's also like the space between the clothing and the women's breast. So maybe that's where they got it from, you know. Maybe that's what they used to mean. It was like that space, and then since it was that particular space, it probably just morphed into the actual breast, and now that's what it's used for. Not 100% sure. I'm not a linguist, so this is just me researching on Google, and that's what I could find. But I would have to do a more extensive search to give you something like completely definite about that. So nice story, but don't quote me on that. All right, number 5, cochlea, and in Spanish it's cochlea. I don't know if you can if I'm focusing there. Cochlea and cochlea. Now, a cochlea is a snail-shaped structure in the inner ear, which is the essential organ of hearing. This tube is filled with tiny hairs which help transmit sound into the brain. So this is pretty much like the connection, right, from the eardrum to the brain. Like the eardrum gets the things moving, and then it goes into the cochlea, and then the cochlea not transmits, but it turns vibrations. It turns physical vibrations into electrical signals that the brain can interpret, and it turns into sound. That is awesome, isn't it? All right, and number 6, deviated septum, and in Spanish is tabique desviado. Now, first of all, I'm going to have to define what septum is. So septum is just like this little thing right here in the middle, right? This division that we have here, that is a septum. It divides your left nostril from your right nostril. So now that we have that out of the way, what is a deviated septum? Is leaning of the septum to one side or the other of the nose may create a blockage of the nostril. I don't know if you can really see it, but there's like a dent here, and I have a deviated nostril. This one is dented and is more towards this side. I haven't had any problems, but if I ever happen to have problems with my breathing, they're probably gonna tell me that I need to get this fixed. That's gonna be like step number one, and it was an ENT that told me that I had a deviated septum. All right, and number 7, laryngitis, in Spanish laryngitis. Now this is something that you have to fear this, man. You want laryngitis as far away from your life as possible. If you're an interpreter or if you're anyone that uses their voice for a living, I've actually suffered from laryngitis being an interpreter. I had to be out of work for 3 days because I had to speak like this, and then you're speaking like this, and then the more you speak like this, the more it messes up your voice. Let me just define before I get more into it. So what is laryngitis? Laryngitis is a hoarse voice or complete loss of the voice because of irritation to the vocal cords, vocal folds, or vocal cords. Alright, so this makes your hoarse voice. This makes your voice hoarse. You're gonna sound very, very hoarse, or people are not even gonna understand you. In my case, it got so bad that I had to speak like this, and I wish it sounded like that. It sounded like very inaudible. People could not even hear me or tell what I was saying. So I just stopped. I just told my manager I couldn't continue, and then I just went straight to the doctor. They gave me some stuff. 3 days later, I was back into work, but I missed 3 days of work. So if you're an interpreter or anybody that uses their voice, you fear laryngitis, and just make sure it doesn't get to you. And if it gets to you, make sure that you treat it from the beginning. Don't let it go longer. Don't force your voice, because it'll just make it worse, and it'll make it longer, and then you're gonna have like that moment, like that moment of lucidity or regret, when you're like, oh man, I used to have a perfect voice and I took it for granted and now I don't have it. So you're definitely gonna think that. I know I did. So moving on to number 8, and that is eardrum. Sorry guys, I almost dropped my mouse. Eardrum, and the Spanish translation for that is tímpano. And what is eardrum? Eardrum is a translucent fibrous drum which separates the external ear canal from the middle ear and is directly attached to the ear bone's ossicles. The structures help conduct sound waves to mechanical energy that results in stimulation of the inner ear. So it's all about converting, right? Sound waves into mechanical movement into electric stimulation to reach the brain, right? So it's awesome. And let me just tell you real quick, I have a story about eardrum. So it turns out that for the company that I work for now, they test you before they actually allow you to interpret for them. And that was the first word on the test, and it was with a live person. So the person said eardrum, and I was so anxious. I was honestly, I couldn't even think up of the word. I was like, I don't know. And then the lady went tímpano, and then like everything just started flashing inside of my head and everything. And I've said this story before, and I just felt very bad. I was like, of course, tímpano, I know that. And I just said, you gotta relax. I just told myself inside my head, I was like, you gotta relax, man. You know all of these answers. You work in this. You've been working in this for a little bit over a year. You got it. Relax. If you don't relax, you're gonna miss the biggest chance of your life. So I just got myself to relax. I was able to relax, and I was 1 point away from failing that test. So just one little point away, but it was that fact that I was able to relax and just make sure that I thought in the spot, and that I didn't let anxiety take over me, and I now have that job, and I can tell you that getting this job, there's like a point in my life, like before this company and after this company, and there's like a very big difference. So anxiety, and I've said this before, anxiety is our worst enemy, and you're gonna have to learn ways to cope with it, because if you get very anxious when interpreting, that is killer. You're not going to be able to do a good job. All right, so moving on to number 9, vertigo, and Spanish is the same, vertigo, just with a accent on the E. What is vertigo? Vertigo is the illusion of movement and sensation, as if the external world were revolving around an individual, that is objective vertigo, or as if the individual were revolving in space, subjective vertigo. So there's 2 types of vertigo. There's vertigo where I'm here and everything is spinning all around me, or there's vertigo when I feel that I'm spinning and everything's still. So vertigo is very, very common. This usually gets treated first at the family doctor, and if it's so severe or so bad that whatever the family doctor has recommended or the PCP has not worked, then they will send them to the ENT, where the ENT is going to check them and is going to give them whatever treatment they require to make sure that the patient can go back to living a normal life, right? Because imagine just getting up out of bed in the morning and then everything spinning, or getting up too fast from a chair, or there's all kinds of things that could trigger this. And when a person usually has it, any little movement they had, they will trigger it. So imagine living like that. So it is a very, very common condition. So be prepared to interpret that one. But if you interpret in Spanish, well, you got it made, right? All right, and number 10. Number 10 is tonsil or amygdala. And what is a tonsil? A tonsil is a lymphoid tissue located in the back of the mouth. And as soon as you open your mouth, you see like some spongy little structures in the back, on I don't know, on the back of, I don't know, no, the roof of your mouth will be right here. It's like, you could see it. If you look it up in Google, you're gonna be able to see it. Whenever you have strep throat, that's what gets like little white dots, right? And it gives you tonsillitis. And the tonsils are just like the adenoids. They help you fight off infection, so they can get swollen and they can get infected. And sometimes they are so big, just naturally, no infection, no nothing, that it blocks the air, or it prevents swallowing, so they have to take them out. And someone can live good without tonsils, without adenoids, without an appendix, right? They pretty much do similar stuff. They help you fight infection, and all of a sudden they get overwhelmed and they have to be removed. All right, so one thing for my Spanish speakers though, in Spanish, for some reason, they call it anginas. And now angina in English and in Spanish as well, it's a condition of the chest. It's chest pain that could be very serious, and it's related to the heart. So Spanish speakers, or I think Mexico, I don't think that all Spanish speakers, I think just Mexico, the people from Mexico call it anginas whenever they have tonsillitis, whenever they have inflammation of the tonsils, or whenever they have, or whenever they have strep, they call it angina. So that is going to be good to know, to differentiate, right? Anginas from angina, and they're not the same. And of course, if they're at the ENT, very rarely are they going to be speaking about their chest. So something to keep in mind. All right, and we just got to the end of this video. That's going to be it for me today. Please leave your questions in the comments, and I will answer some of them on the next session. Remember that if it's time sensitive, please let me know so that I can get to your question before you actually need the information. All right, So remember, I'll be here every Monday through Friday after work. Also remember that we have a Patreon page for as little as just $1 of your support. You can help motivate us to create much more content, and we will give you access to all of the medical videos, ad-free, scripts to those videos, answer sheets to those videos, vocabulary lists, and much more content. And most importantly, you will forever win a place inside of our heart. We love all of our Patreons. We love all of our subscribers. We love everyone that watches our channel, and we love you that made it to the end of this video. And remember, we're still trying to get the Prepare for the CCHI to 100 likes. So that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so for much more content, and don't forget to share. Happy interpreting. Goodbye.